Please pray with me. God bless the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts, for you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Last year, I also preached on the second Sunday after Pentecost, and it feels like 10 years have gone by, not just one. Last June, we were living in a different dimension. Last year, I preached about a remarkable story that took place in Istanbul, Turkey that week. An average teenage boy was walking down an average street when something in a building above him caught his eye. The rest of the story is caught by a street camera in about 15 seconds. He looks up and his body freezes. His jaw goes slack and he just stares for a couple of seconds. And then we see hurtling out of the upper left corner of the frame a heavy collection of blankets and sheets moving fast. He simultaneously reaches up and out with his hands while he drops to one knee to try to catch it before it smashes on the pavement. And there are a few seconds of struggle. And then we realize that the boy has just caught a baby that had fallen out of a very high window. In just a few seconds, tragedy is averted. Other people come pouring into view in the next few seconds, picking up a dropped toy, patting him on the back, shaking their heads in disbelief. The teenage boy just stands there, trying to absorb the miraculous rescue he just completed. I'm telling us this story again because this year, I think we can identify with both the teenage boy and the baby. We haven't fallen out of a window, but 4 months ago, we were all pushed out of our normal lives, and we have been hurtling through uncertainty since, in a free fall of economic and social uncertainty. We're waiting to see who or what will catch us, or if our health or economic and social well-being will be broken. But we should also identify with the young man. Like him, we're all trying to react to a crisis without enough information and without any certainty as to how this particular chapter will end. When we wear masks or buy extra groceries or go to work as an essential worker, we are attempting to save strangers. We are attempting to help our neighbors without much time to figure out what we should do. We're working on instinct, what my mother would call a lick and a prayer. In the video, it's clear that this boy has no idea if he's going to succeed in catching the baby. He only has just enough time to try. He risks stepping into a crisis to make a difference, and he does. Every day for the past 4 months, it feels like we are living with only just enough time to try. His story reminds us that we are built to be each other's heroes. We have been made in the image of God, and we are built to be each other's heroes. We have been called to love our neighbors as ourselves. In our epistle this morning, St. Paul promises us that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. I've had many days this past month where I wish all of us could be suffering less, could be enduring less. But the demands of our time require something else from us. St. Paul is right. The world is giving us at least two enormous challenges, and our responses to them will carve our characters. We're facing an incredibly dangerous global pandemic with all sorts of consequences, and a national crisis about our identity as Americans. We have to ask ourselves, how are we living up to our country's pledge of liberty and justice for all? The demands of our time are upon us. A medical pandemic and a moral pandemic. Paul's hard and honest formula is meant to help us. Suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. A modern way to say this might be, we are what we make of our anguish. Show me what you suffer for, and I will show you what you love. So, what will we make of our anguish? What will each of us do with the particular anguish we are experiencing in order to redeem it? We can't just remain in a constant state of anguish. We have to let that anguish deepen into something else. Resolve, endurance, a willingness to risk acting on the values we hold dear, a determined practice of compassion. For a start, if we love our neighbors, we will wear a mask. For a start, if we value liberty and justice for all, we have to educate ourselves about who seems to have it and who says they don't. In the process of suffering and enduring, something new will come into existence. A new way of being, a new vaccine to cure us, a new unimaginable way to serve each other, respecting the dignity of each of us. We will find hope and character as our vision begins to clear. We'll find hope on our way to building what will turn out to be the previously unimagined solutions. But like that teenage boy, we have to commit to being all in to trying before we know what result our actions will have. We have to be prepared to have some bruises and commit to enduring before character and hope unfold. A brilliant modern writer named Rachel Solnit explains this idea much more eloquently than I can. She writes, "This is an extraordinary time, full of vital, transforming moments that could not be foreseen. It's also a nightmarish time. Full engagement requires us to have the ability to perceive both." St. Paul said it first. Suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint us because God's love has been poured into our hearts. So we are all standing together, even if it's 6 feet apart, even if we're isolated in our own homes. May God's blessing be upon each of us as we suffer and endure, as we build our characters, as we find ourselves moving into hope. Amen.